do what's better for the breed, but it's also what's better for the sport. The sport needs to be leveled up. We need to level up. Too many people are going too low, and we need to level the whole sport up. We need to all speak better about each other, about our sport, about each other's dogs. Like, we all have to level up.
Welcome to the Better Breeder Chronicles, brought to you by Easy Whelp Premium Whelping Boxes. Elevate your breeding program with Easy Whelp. In today's episode, we visit with Janice Hayes of Stellar PBGVs. Located in Palm Springs, California, Janice has become one of the most successful breeders in the PBGV breed. Janice's story began as a handling assistant, and she worked herself to the top of her profession with many national specialty and #1 dogs. The capstone achievement being Best in Show at the 2023 Westminster Dog Show with the great Buddy Holly. What many probably don't realize is the mark that Janice has made as a master breeder of PBGVs, and we will hear that story today. Stellar has produced many national specialty and Best in Show winners, including dogs that are dominating the modern breed, both in this country and abroad. People who know Janice best describe her as a standout in character and generosity, noting her knowledge, dedication, and experience in purebred dogs. Join me now in welcoming the master of Stellar, Janice Hayes. Janice, welcome to the show, and I'm excited for you to share the Stellar story with us today. Take us back to the beginning. How did you get started in purebred dogs?
Okay, well, we're going all the way back to the 1900s. That's always how old I feel now, but I'm not that old. So I feel like it's just a number. But I actually first saw Westminster Kennel Club probably in 1987, 88. My dad always watched it. And so about then I started noticing, and I was like, that's so cool. Look at all these dogs. And so we'd watch, and we had a German short-hair pointer. I would see the German short-hair pointer. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Look at that, and it was like a family function, was watching the dog show. My dad did all the hunting, obedience classes. He did everything. So when we lost our 16-year-old short hair, I was about 9, and we were looking at a puppy. My dad wanted one for the field, and we went to a Vizsla because he had those too. And when you lose one, you don't immediately go back to the same breed for some people. So we got a Vizsla, and it was just one of those, we went to see the puppies. He wanted it for hunting instinct. The one he picked out, the breeder asked if we could show it. And my dad was just like, can my kids do that? And so she was like, of course, if your kids want to do it, sure, they can do it. So we started going to handling classes. We started with this puppy. We ended up getting 2 brothers, my sister and I. They were both 9 years old, and I was 9, my dog was 9, and I started in juniors. And I was hooked from the first time I beat my sister. She's older. I beat my sister. I was like, this is for me. So we realized really fast I'm very competitive, and sports is not my thing. So this just clicked for me. And I watched Westminster from that year, and I was like, I'm going to be in that ring one day. And my dad's like, oh, cool, you're going to go watch. I'm like, nope, I'm going to be on that floor in a Best in Show ring. And he was like, oh, okay, all right. And it was just on. Like, that was my dream from the get-go. I was going to be on the floor showing beautiful dogs. That was my whole dream. Every time I'd go to the doctor, they'd be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I'm going to show dogs. I'm going to be a dog handler. And they're like, okay. And so, once you're about 15, they start believing you that you might actually do this. So I did juniors. I worked for a few handlers along the way. We ended up getting a short hair. He ended up being, he was about 2 when I got him. He ended up being epileptic and bloating twice. So I really got to experience the ups and downs really young. And that was my junior's dog. So from the time he was 2 until I think we got him probably in 94, until, I was in open junior, and then it started getting too much on him in open senior, that it was like, okay, we need a new dog. And that's when I met Aaron Kerfoot, who has beautiful springers, and her family just kind of took me in as an extra kid. So I would go out there in the summers because my parents worked. They did not show dogs. I am first generation. So Aaron's family kind of took me in the summers and really taught me about, how to raise dogs and taking care of the dogs, and the dogs come first, and then introduced me to some handlers that they would, vouch for, that would be good learning places and stuff like that. So I really got started with just really great people around. Then started working for Andrew Doyle, who used to work for George Alston and Marianne. So trimming, I learned everything from him as far as trimming. I was a sporting dog person from the get-go, like always sporting dogs. So it's just funny now that I'm a hound person because my whole childhood, I was in Virginia. So I'm from Virginia. That's where I grew up. And we always had sporting dogs. It was never, I'd see a PB here and there. They got recognized in 1990. So we'd see one here and there. And I was just like, yeah, paid no attention to them. So I was full on springers, setters, all the pretty hair. I really loved the picture that dogs could make. I was full on handler. Like that's what I wanted to be. So I just learned as much as I could. I would watch. I didn't speak as a kid. I was very quiet, which most people don't believe now. I'm an extroverted introvert at this point. So if you know me, I'm fine. If you meet me in person, like some people are like, she's rude. And I'm just quiet. If you come to my setup, you can have a conversation. If you're just meeting me, it's like small talk is not my jam. So I was very quiet as a kid. So I watched everything. I soaked it in. I remember watching Flavio with his Bichons and his Irish setters, and just one dog would walk into a setup and it would just be a mess. And then within 3 hours, it was a masterpiece. I would watch Peter and Beth and just their whole setup just work like clockwork. And it was just fascinating that people could just walk in and then they'd like put their dogs together. And like, it was fascinating to me. And then George Alston would come to our kennel and Andrew would just let him go through the kennel and be like, he's like, all right, kid, are you working on this dog? And I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, take it off here, take it off there. And, I just was like, yes, sir. I mean, I didn't speak. Like to this day, he probably doesn't know my name. But to me, I remember everything he ever said. I was just like, oh my God, he's just going to walk in here and just, tell us what to do. And it was always a fun experience. His daughter Jane was really close to Andrew. So that was just I just was in the right place at the right time where I just got a lot of knowledge in a really short amount of time.
At that point, did you have any inclination about being a breeder later in life?
We had a few breeds that Andrew bred. He actually bred some litters of smooth fox terriers when I lived there. But even then, I loved the puppies, but it wasn't my thing. I loved taking a dog that was just a mushmallow or nervous and getting them out of it. Like I loved that transformation. So I just had none. And then when I worked for Andrew until probably I graduated. And so that would have been 99. And then so in 2000, I had worked for him and I was like, okay, it's time to move on. And I was friends with one of Clint Livingston's friends, and I went to work for Clint in 2000. And that's when I met Charmaine and the first PB bitch he had. And she was actually, the year I met her, she was finishing up her year. It was in February or March. And she was getting ready to go get bred. So I was with her for a short amount of time, and he had another dog at the time, which was Dayraw Yo-Yo, which was Jigsaw. He was just a handful, but Charmaine like just took my breath away the first time I met her. She was funny, silly, spiteful in the best kind of way. I mean, I had always had boys. Like my junior's dogs were all dogs. It was just something about her attitude that I was just like, oh my God, she is funny. And so she left to go get bred. So Nick Frost owned her. It was Pepperhill Day Ross Charmaine, and she was just beautiful. The breed was still fairly new. She did a lot of winning, but then she was getting bred. So we had this other male. So with Jigsaw, I won my first group. And then later on, I won my first Best in Show on him. So it's just kind of funny that for someone that is so involved with the breed now, that it truly was my first breed that I won a group on, that I won Best in Show with. And I loved him. Every time we'd get a new one, Nick Frost was who he was showing for. And every time we get a new one, I'm like, oh my God, are they all this cool? Are they all this funny? I mean, Jigsaw had a mouth on him, but he was just a delight. Like every day he was just like, I'm going to make you laugh today. And I was just so enamored with him. And then Nick Frost at that time really, I remember being on the Florida circuit, and it might have been when he was picking up Charmaine.
Okay.
Or when she was coming back, one of those. But I just remember going and be like, tell me about them so I can understand them better. And he really broke down the breed for me and really explained all the little nuances. Like he didn't blow me off. He didn't just like, okay, this is what, and it wasn't, just grooming. It was like, what are we looking for here? Because Jigsaw looks this way, Charmaine looks this way. What's like, how do they compare? And he just was really good and took the time. If you know Nick, he's very soft-spoken and but when he talks about the breed, he's very passionate. And I was just really enamored with the whole history of the breed. He's originally from England. He had brought the breed over. And so he just had a wealth of knowledge of even explaining to me how they had to bring so many dogs over to get them recognized. Because at that time, there was not 200 PBs in the country. So they literally just pulled dogs out of the kennels and just brought them over to get the numbers in the States so that they could get them recognized and then start from there. So all of it, I just got the full history of the breed. And he was a great mentor on just really, explaining their temperament and why they are the way they are, and just fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better person in that time. And I was just the assistant. It was just one of those, and I tell people all the time, handlers work with breeders. I think that is the most important relationship at the dog show is, yes, the one-time owners are very important to keep them in because those are the people that will hopefully keep coming back to their breeder. But the relationship between handlers and breeders are the core of dog shows. You are working together on what you're going to present, what you're going to because that was my thing, is Charmaine was such a specific type, and then Jigsaw was a totally different type. And I was like, explain what makes both of them so good. And he didn't just go fault after fault after fault. It was, she has this about her. She's got this. We want this. He's more up on leg. He's more like, he would just explain their virtues. Like the faults are faults. Every dog has them, but it was the virtues of like, how can you have two dogs that are very different, but still both be such an asset to the breed?
Yeah.
And that to me is when I started thinking about breeding, is like when you really think of like, so when you're judging a breeding program, what does that dog have to offer the breed as a whole? And I think that's where I started to come at, okay, this is a lot more than just showing pretty dogs. And for me, that was like, whoa, I think I can get behind that. So then when Jigsaw was done, I cried like awful when he left. And I was like, oh my God, I don't like this. And then Charmaine came back. And when Charmaine came back, everything changed for me. Like she was just that dog that I'm just like, Clint's going to hate me for telling this story, but when Clint would be in a bad mood or just out talking on the phone or off running errands, she would get mad. She would go and pee on his pillow. Not pee on the bed, not because she hadn't been out, just out of spite that he wasn't giving her enough attention. And there was something in that moment with that bitch doing that made me laugh. So I'm like, you can't get mad at her. Like, she's just like, pay attention. She slept on the bed all day. Like, she was just the house pet and she slept on the bed all day. And then some days he'd go to bed and his pillow was peed on. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Give her some attention. Like, it was just the funniest. And she just looked at him like, yeah, and he couldn't do anything. She was funny. She was just spiteful in the best way. And she was the cutest show dog. You never wondered if she was going to show that day. So she was truly what just captured my heart in the breed. I just fell in love with her. It's a fun that in the whole realm of things, her last show was Westminster. It was we had Bunny the Ibethan at the same time and Charmaine at the same time. And Charmaine's career was ending. Bunny's was just starting. That morning we had the schedule from you know where, and Bunny, Jester, the Brittany were at 8 a.m. at Westminster, and Charmaine was at 8:30. And I showed Bunny, Clint showed Jester, I started Charmaine, he came in and made Charmaine, and then we had to decide who we were showing in the group. And it ended up, we had that same judge in August, and we were swapped. I was on Bunny, Clint was on Charmaine. She walked us out of the group, so we were like, let's just swap. I had been showing Bunny, but I had shown Charmaine. I had won a couple things with her. So I was like, I feel comfortable doing that. Let's do that. And I ended up at her last show getting a group 2 at Westminster with her to retire her. And it's just very special because to me, she's what started it all for me. Like, I just absolutely adored that dog. I met Jeff Pepper and Nick and all of them through her. So it was just a big, everybody in the breed that's like been encouraging along the way. She was one of those dogs that kind of got me going with them. So it was just one of those. She's a special dog that I will never forget.
Fellow breeders, see what your breeding program has been missing with Easy Whelp modular whelping boxes. From the durable Easy Classic design to the spacious Easy Classic Tall, Easy Whelp sets a new standard for premium design and performance. Their innovative models were developed for simple setup and maximum safety, with features like the integrated safety rails to protect your next generation. The smooth, hygienic surface allows for quick wipe downs to maintain a sanitary environment. And the new window walled option, which I personally recommend, provides the next level of safety, confidence, and convenience. And for our Better Breeder audience, use coupon code BB15 to save 15% on your purchase. Elevate your breeding program today. Visit easywhelp.com. So at what point did you make the decision that this was going to be your breed?
Probably not until I went out on my own. So after Charmaine was done, Gavin Robertson, who is Soul Trader, brought over Afterglow Woody Woodpecker. And Clint was going to show him. I fell in love with that dog too. He was an amazing show dog. He ended up being number 1 or number 2 hound after Bunny was retired. So I kind of started showing him. I think I might have made the cut with him in the garden the year Bunny won her second group. I can't remember, but he did a lot of winning too. I think he won like 25 Best in Shows. He was a top hound. But in that time, I met Gavin, and Gavin and Sarah kind of changed the whole aspect for me. So Gavin came over to the national. Clint, I think we had another national going the same time. So I went with our PBs to the national, and that was my first national. And I just remember getting there and Gavin looking at Woody and was like, Jesus Christ, why do you have all this hair on this dog? And I was like, that's how we have to show them. And he's like, no, we don't. He literally, we went to the grooming room, and I think he spent probably an hour ripping hair out of the dog. He was going to show him at the national, and he ripped hair out of him for an hour. And he explained to me why he was pulling the coat where he was pulling. And in that moment, I understood the breed on a whole nother level. He explained what the importance of their coat was, why you have to show off their proportions, why you can't let the hair make them look like a basset hound. stop leaving a whole skirt on them, stop leaving a schnauzer beard, like all these things, and really walking me through the breed specific things. And I was hooked. Like the second I saw him overhaul that dog, I was like, this breed is what I want. I love them. Every dog I met, I loved them. Gavin just had a way of explaining them to me that made it so simple and so easy, and I was hooked. And then I left Clint's at the end of Woody's career. I actually went to work for Bill and Taffy in between, and then I went back to work for Clint to finish out Woody's career. That kind of sealed Gavin and Sarah's relationship with me, is that I went back to make sure he finished out his career well. It was a big deal for me because I just loved the dog. And so I went out on my own in 2006. So Alicia Jones, that shows the Afghan, and she happened to live in Texas at the time. I was at a show in Oklahoma and she was in Texas, and Donna Moore had decided she was going to have a new handler. And Alicia said, Janice is on her own. You're calling her right now. She is going to show this dog. And so that dog was Jabiba's Texas True Grit, and that was John Wayne. And I tried to convince Donna to let him grow up. He was 2 years old. He had already been shown for a year. She didn't want to agree with that. She was very competitive, still is very competitive to this day. But Donnie and Donna Moore, who were Eminem, they were the relationship that got me hooked. They allowed me to show their dogs, but Donnie sat me down and he said, hey, kid. And I was a kid. He said, Miss Donna likes to win. And she likes to win a lot. And they had bred world famous goats. So they had a name in the goat world. And so they had done a lot of winning there. And she fell in love with this breed, and she got John Wayne, because that was Donnie's. He loved John Wayne. And so that was the start for us. Donna had about 8 or 9 dogs at the time, PBs. And Donnie said, do you think you can win with these dogs? And I said, I think we need to start over. I was like, there's 2 we can work with. And then there's John. I said, but I think if you want to win on the level you want to win at, you're going to have to let me start in a different direction. And she was a little hesitant. And then I told her who I thought I could get a dog from. And she's like, if you can get a dog from Gavin that you think can kickstart this program, let's do it. And so I called Gavin and I said, I have this client. She's willing to start over. And I want a bitch that will match with John Wayne. Like, I need something that's going to mesh. And he was kind of a fluke in his pedigree with his proportions. He had some good dogs behind him, but his proportions were kind of not as common as the worst thing as a handler is to start your career with a great dog. And John today, if I had him now, which I do have his great grandson, and he's very similarly built, but John was one of those dogs that, I lost because I didn't have the experience and I didn't have the name quite yet. I mean, I was known in the breed, but I'd run up against Clint and I'm still going to lose to Clint at the time. But he was that dog that he was before his time. He was too young and he got beat more than he should have.
Okay.
Because once he got to 5, 6, and 7, you couldn't beat him. Like you couldn't beat him. But I was showing him too young, and I knew I had to just show him young. Donna wanted something in the ring, so we just showed him. But in that time, when I asked Gavin, he sent me over Soul Trader Maggie May. Maggie May started Donna's line of real winners. Like, we bred her to John, and basically everything we have today goes back to that breeding. That first breeding we got a brother and sister out of it, Eminem's Fear the Beard and Mae West, and the 2 of them started our whole lines. Like, it just all goes back to Maggie. So that when Maggie showed up, I couldn't believe Gavin sent her over. Like I think he came over with them, or he came to visit one time, and I'm like, why did you send her? Like, she's stunning. And she happened to be a repeat litter of Soul Trader Donald Duck, who was my ultimate. I saw his puppy picture and I fell in love with him. And then I followed his career in England. Sarah showed him, and I followed his career then. And years later, Bill McFadden ended up getting him. I fell in love with that dog so much that I bought him, and he lived out the rest of his days at my house. To this day, he is still my ultimate, and I am finally far enough away from him that I can tie him back in. But the fact that we had a repeat of that breeding was huge for me. But that's also why we can't breed back to him as close, because the sister was where our line started. So we've had to wait a few generations. But that Maggie May, like, I think it's important for people to understand. And Donna, with a little pushback, but not much, understood when I said, if you want to do the winning they wanted to do, you have to be able to say, we need to start over, or we need to start in a new direction. That is not easy. Like, it's not easy. She had probably 2 or 3 generations before I met her of dogs that they were fine. They were great pets. They were great. She could show them some, and she finished a couple, but they weren't going to do the level of success that they explained to me they wanted. Donnie trusted me from the get-go. And to this day, we miss him all the time. The greatest thing about Buddy Holly is that he went Best in Show. Donnie had passed, but he went Best in Show on his birthday, which is always him smiling down. That was the show he loved the most. So it would happen to be in May that year. And for to this day, it still blows me away of all the things that had to happen to have Westminster in May, to have it land on his birthday, just to be like the little nod down from Donnie. Like, that was just because he was just like, Donna's passion was the dogs, and Donnie's passion was keeping Donna happy. And it was whatever we wanted to do, we got to do, because Donnie's like, do it. Every time, I have the patience of a saint when it comes to this breed, which most people don't understand. They are not going to win at 2, 3, and 4. The bitches, some will. Like, if you breed them at 2, they're going to win and do enough. But they're not going to be that level until 4, 5, and 6. And that takes patience. And you got to wait. And you got to go through some ugly stages. So I think that they trusted me a lot to get them through that. So we had Maggie, and then we ended up getting a bitch from a breeding out of John, and she was a puppy back. Her name was Jodel's Boogie Back to Texas. Texas was my heart dog. She was my biggest heartbreak. She won 2 nationals. She was a puppy back, and Donna, when she went to get this puppy, she said, well, she's the 3rd pick. I said, I don't care. Bring her back. And I looked at her, and I remember saying, well, if she's the 3rd pick, I want to see the other 2, because I loved her. I loved her the day she walked in. She was this tiny little package with all this sass. Like, she walked in a room and you knew it. And so I just fell in love with that puppy. She was just awesome. And my biggest heartbreak with her is that she had 1 oops litter, and that's when we learned she had silent heats. Her mother only had 1 litter, and it was her. And they had tried many a times and never got her pregnant until that 1 litter. And so she had 1 oops litter with a dog that we had brought over with Maggie. I got a Best in Show on him, but his patellas didn't pass. And their oops puppies, their patellas were fine, which was good. But I was like, I don't want to go anywhere with that line. So, she had 2 boys. So we're like, okay, we're going to let them go. And then we never got her pregnant. I bought Donald Duck to breed to Texas. She was pregnant, confirmed an ultrasound with 1 puppy. And I was getting ready to go on a road trip So I had taken her back to Donna, and she absorbed the puppy. And it was just, it was the biggest heartbreak, because I was just like, that's going to be my puppy. And so that was a rough lesson. So she won 2 nationals, Best in Shows, Group 2 at the Garden. But she was, everyone that ever showed against her loved to hate her because she would do the cute bark. She'd like put her butt up in the air, bark at it. I mean, you couldn't beat her cuteness factor. And so everyone loved her, but they also were like, oh, not her again. Cause she was she just won a lot. So and then I lost her at 14 from eating a rock. So she's just, I always tell these, they're such a healthy breed, like something random gets them. And truly, she ate a rock at 14. And we just couldn't get her through the surgery at that point. So it was just, she was just the coolest dog, like just fun. But she was a John kid as well. So that was, when you talk about heartbreaks in a breed, you get things like that. But she taught me the lesson of, with my line, I want to make sure I can get them pregnant. So I breed most of my bitches at 2. I get all their health clearances done, and then I breed them at 2, and then make sure they can have puppies. And it matures this breed and bitches mentally and physically so much that then I can tend to special them at like 3 and 4 and then breed them after. And it works beautifully, like clockwork. Like I can just be like, okay, 2 years old, we're going to do this. So she taught me a lot on that, to really make sure breeding comes first. So she's one of my big ones. Texas was the one that really got me as far as breeding. Like I was like, this is going to be my brood bitch. And then that happened. So then what we did is, with the Maggie May litter and John, we got Fear the Beard, who ended up going with friends, Bill McFadden's assistants at the time, and they grew him up while we were growing up, May West.
Okay.
And so once Fear the Beard, which was Mr. Wilson at the time, when Wilson came back, I specialed him and we bred May West. So we had Gavin Robertson and Sarah are a sole trader in England. Their partners are Auriga up in Canada, which was Wendy and Martin Doherty.
Okay.
And they were a huge asset to our breed. We've lost Martin. Wendy doesn't breed anymore, except when I have her on some of my dogs, just because I want to keep her involved and I adore her. But at the time when we wanted to breed May, they had a different dog that we were interested in breeding too. And when Donna got on the phone with Martin changed her mind and said, no, I think you need to go with this dog, this Just Jack dog. I had never seen him. I didn't know anything about him. And I was like, you know what? If Martin says this is the better fit, you go with Martin. Like, he's got that gut instinct. And if he's going to give us his advice, I'm going to listen, because he's a breeder and he's been in the breed, and him and Wendy are really smart how they put dogs together. They were just always so helpful. They were always there when I just needed, and I had shown a couple dogs for them to finish and send them back to Canada. So they were always really helpful. And so they suggested that dog, and that ended up being May and Jack was Calamity's litter. And Eminem's Calamity Jane is now, I think she's 11. I always try to make her younger than she is. She's been 8 for 3 years at least. So now I think she is like 11. I refuse to let her age.
What was the registered name of the sire?
Of the sire, Auriga's Just Jack.
Thank you.
I got to look and see if we have photos. They didn't show him much. It was kind of at the point where they just weren't showing as often, but he was just like, this is the dog you need for her. And I'm so glad we listened, because we got a beautiful litter out of him. Her sister, Calamity's sister, was a really nice bitch too. But it was just funny because Calamity was the worst puppy on the planet. Donna sent her to me at 4 months old. Like, Donna was at the time still breeding. I had moved to California at this point, and I was still showing all of their dogs. I was in Texas for about 12 years. I moved to California, and Donna stuck with me. Donna and Donnie were absolutely going with you, kid. And so they they sent me Calamity at 4 months old. And she's like, I just can't do it anymore. I just think I'm just gotten too old to raise the litters. And I was like, okay, I don't think you are, but okay, I'll take her. And then she got to our house and she was horrible. She was the worst puppy. She was crazy, just a crazy dog. And I was like, what did you send me? Like, she was eating the walls. Like, if there was something in the yard she could pull and yank, like ficus or flowers or anything she could grab and destroy, she did. She was awful, awful. And I was like, I don't think I could do this. And then she was really long and tubey. And I was like, she's ugly and awful to live with. What are we doing? And she was just, and so I called Wendy. I'm like, this is the ugliest puppy I've ever had. She was so pretty at 8 weeks. I don't know what's happened. She's ugly. And she's like, hold on to her. Her dad was the same way. Hold on to her. Just throw her in the pack. Let them whip her into shape. She'll be fine. I was like, I don't know. And then we saw Donna at the National. She showed her at sweepstakes. I was like, I'm not walking in with her. You have to show her. If you want her shown, I'm not walking in with her. She's terrible. And so she showed her. She was terrible. She was wild. Donna just laughed. I just laughed. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, she's chaos. And then in about a year and a half, she went back to the National. She went winner's bitch, finished at the regional. And then at the National, she went opposite. It was just one of those things, like, it just took time. And then I bred her. And I remember Eric saying, I think she was the second litter we had. We did Mae West's second litter. I'll touch back on that later. But Calamity was our first bigger litter because the first litter only had 2. This was a bigger litter. And Eric just looked at me and said, this is the dumbest idea we have ever had. Like, to have this puppy who's 2 now going to be a mother. She's terrible. That first puppy came and the entire bitch went into mom mode. And she has been the greatest joy of our life every day since. Like, she's just the coolest, chillest, funny, bad. But I mean, to this day, she makes us laugh every single day because she's just Calamity. She is a hot mess all within. I mean, she's just the funniest dog, and we just adore her. So after she had her litter, I specialed her. I think she ended up winning 14 Best in Shows. She did a lot. There was one bitch before her, which was Soul Trader Annie Mac. She was a Jilly daughter who won Best in Show at Crufts, and she was a Jilly daughter. And so she came to the National that Calamity went opposite at, and she finished at that same National. So then we bred Calamity, and I specialed Annie Mac. Annie was probably the most correct typey bitch I ever showed. And it's just funny because of her markings alone. I said Calamity is going to win more, even though Annie's more correct.
Okay.
And because she was a clear white, beautiful, flashy. And I was like, I'm just going to get hammered because she's pretty. And Calamity was more muddy markings. But the 2 bitches are different. But Annie was definitely the better bitch. And I always told Gavin, I was like, I'm going to get hammered because she's just that clear white. And so we bought Annie to breed to her. So she ended up being number 1. She won a few Best in Shows, and she was the kind of in between before I did Calamity. And Donnie was still alive then. So he was like, if you think we need a different one to bring in those lines again, let's do it. So it was great because we got Eminem's Stellar Spotify out of that litter. And so it really sealed 2 lines for our breeding program. She was completely separate from the Maggie May lines. They cross back there, but they're far enough away that it gave us 2 distinct lines. And to this day, I could still.
I was going to ask, with it being such a small breed, like when you're talking 2 different lines, like really how far apart were they?
So Gavin's the most clever breeder. In Europe, they're not as small as here. I mean, they were, but they have access to more there. So he could really go out and find some good dogs that could cross into his. And he was really clever with what he did because he has several lines that he can still be majority his lines and just switch them. And that's basically what I've done. I've built my breeding program off of his lines. Like there's no doubt. I have everything I do goes back to him, and everything I do, I double check with him, see if he thinks it's going to be a good idea. So, all of that, everything happens for a reason with that. Like John Wayne, after he won the national, we sent him to England. He is the first American bred champion in England. But in that time, I think he had 6 or 8 litters in England, one being a longtime breeder, Viv Phillips. We've lost her now, but she bred a French bitch to him, which it's just funny because she's one of the first ones that gave him a specialty the week before the garden when we had them. And he was a really young dog. And she's like, I just love this dog. His shape is so good. And she followed his whole career. So when he went to England, she jumped on that and she bred a French bitch to him. And that is how Buddy Holly comes in. Okay. Buddy Holly's great grandfather is John Wayne. So it is one of those, you can't make this up, like how small the world is, because, had I not met Gavin, had I not done all these things, it's like there wouldn't be Buddy Holly. Like it's just how the world works. And if Donna and Donnie didn't, like, I had to pull her teeth to send John over. But I just was like, we got Maggie, we got Annie, like we had all these beautiful dogs because of Gavin. I was like, the least we can do is send John over. I was like, and then, so it was the first time when we went to England and went to Crufts was because we could go watch John at Crufts. And it was fantastic. It was the first time I got to go overseas. Donna and I think that was the first time we went to Gavin's kennel. And it's the first time that I think he had about 35 PBs. I put my hands on every single dog in his kennel. The best part was it was Gavin and Sarah, and everyone gives Gavin takes the chances. Sarah wipes out the excuses. When I tell you, she doesn't make excuses for anything. Like, it's too long in the muzzle, it's gone. Its tail's too long, it's gone. Like, she cuts out, she doesn't make excuses. It's not maybe it'll grow into it. No, we don't want that. Gone. And I think that shaped me more as a breeder because Gavin will take the risks, but she keeps them on track. And truly, like, no, we're not growing that up. But it's really fascinating to see because you could see him start making excuses for a front that you weren't crazy about. And she's like, what are you going to do with it? Like, we have 10 other better fronts. Why are we going to keep that front? But it was also a lesson in shapes. So they molded me so much in that as we went through the dogs, I'm like, so you can take this one to that one because of their shape. In doing that, I didn't realize how many dogs I was going to get to put my hands on because it was so early still. Because I want to say that was 2012, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Her daughter just turned 16. So it was before that. So maybe not. It's even before that. But it was just one of those lessons that I got to see as I'm putting my hands on these dogs. And I remembered them to this day. I didn't realize that those dogs were going to be in almost every pedigree that I have. So the knowledge I have of the actual dogs I put my hands on, I can remember back to remembering what they look like at that age, what I didn't like, what I saw come through, what I did like. And it was just the most, and now I've been to their house, I think 3 or 4 times. And every time I go, it's the same thing. They grow dogs up. I see them at all the ages. And it was such a valuable learning experience. And I know I've had judges go over and go to Gavin's and really learn the breed from him. And he's just such a fantastic person to talk about the breed. But it was the learning experience of putting your hands on that many good dogs. Like we don't have it in this country. We can't do that here I can't do that here. I can't have as many. So to me, it was great, but I also know what's behind my pedigrees.
Most aspiring breeders don't have that intimate knowledge of dogs back through their pedigrees that they've put hands on.
Yeah.
And the litter mates and the uncles and the aunts. To have that knowledge as you're starting to put those ideas together in your mind of where you want to take your breeding program, invaluable.
It was by far, to this day, I can still go back and look. And, there's a John daughter, Jessie J, and all these bitches that are behind some of these dogs. And I'm just like, I remember her as a puppy. Like, and it was just, and then I'd go back. I went with my best friend and we went to the kennel, and it was some of John's kids or grandkids that I would see. And I could just see how they're growing up and how the impact they were making. And it was just such a cool experience to really be able to, and at Crufts, there's 85 to 100 of them. We get that at our national if we're lucky. And in Crufts, it's just every year they have that many. And so it's such a huge learning experience. If you really want to learn the breed, you have to go there and watch them. You have to. There's such good breeders all around Europe, and they bring them there. And it's just, I know some breeds aren't as strong over there. Like our sporting dogs are just built different than the sporting dogs over there. And you can make an argument for both sides. The PBs are fantastic there. And, it's just such a learning experience. And I'll go again this year just so I can see some of my dog's Hemi's kids now, because, just to see where they've come down for so many years. So, John was huge. And then to have, when we brought Annie Mac over, she went back once we had the litter. She went back over there and finished up, or she might have been finished already, but she showed over there as well, an English champion and all that. But to be able to use that bitch just to bring back more of that line, but still have different lines than what we had, because he can reach out to Finland and, Croatia and Denmark, and there's fantastic breeders. So he can be my test dummy, and then I can like what he's got and be like, I want this one. And that's kind of how Buddy happened. I watched him. He won the breed at Crufts. He ate Gavin's lunch. Like, he was out of control. I think he was just a year. And I just was watching it on my phone. I wasn't there that year. I had gone the year before. And so I was watching Buddy as a 1-year-old. And I was like, I want that one. And he's like, he's a maniac. I said, I don't care. He's like, okay, I've got plans for him, but he will come to you. And I was like, deal. Because he won the breed. And my favorite videos to go watch him in the group and watch. He is a maniac. Gavin just held on. Buddy was a maniac. He was the wildest puppy. He went to Kathy Neal in Ireland, and she trained him. So he got made up in England with Lizzie Cadmore, showed him some there before Gavin took him for the one show and then realized he couldn't show. But his father was Magic Mike, who Sarah was campaigning, and he was top dog, all breeds there. He went reserve at Crufts. That was his father. Buddy's grandmother was Jilly, who went Best in Show at Crufts. His father was Magic Mike, who went reserve at Crufts. So then they wanted to get Buddy out of the country because he beat his dad one time. So he needed to leave. So he went to Ireland with Kathy, and she showed him. He was top dog in Ireland. And then we were supposed to get him. It was probably right at 2020. I think it was, the national was 2021 that we wanted to get him for, because Nick Frost was doing the national. But Gavin had sold Nick a dog that was Oh my gosh, his call name is Paris. I'll have to look that one up. But Clint showed him. So he had sold Nick that dog. I had seen that dog when he was really young in person. And I was like, I need to breed to this dog. I want to breed to this dog. And so it just worked out where I was going to breed a different bitch to that dog. And Nick had a huge storm coming in North Carolina. And my bitch's numbers just kind of stopped. And I had bred Calamity twice. And I didn't have any plans to breed her again. But this dog was the ideal dog I would have bred to her, but she was 6. And I was like, that's starting to push it. And I remember Pat Trotter saying, if you have a good brood bitch, they're always a good brood bitch. And I just had that in my head. But when the other bitch's numbers stopped moving, like she stalled and he had already shipped the semen because of the storm coming in, we were like, so I called Nick really fast. I'm like, her numbers stopped. Calamity was 2 days behind her. I'm like, I know Calamity is not your favorite. He loved Annie Mac. Calamity was not his favorite. And I was like, I know she's not your favorite, but I think this could still be a good breeding. And Nick was like, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was just like floored because he was so absolutely like, I trust that you know what to do. And it was just one of those things. Everything just worked out. And so with that breeding, we got our brother sister litter that has been amazing, which is the dog I'm showing now, which is Hemi, which is Eminem's Stellar Mayhem and Madness, and his sister, who I showed last year, which is Eminem's Stellar Hot Mess Express. So Brittany was, Brittany's career got pushed because of Buddy. So once Buddy came over, I guess I didn't finish that story, but Buddy went to Australia because I bred to Nick's dog. So between Gavin sending Nick that dog and me breeding to that dog, I couldn't show to Nick. So we both took ourselves right out of being able to show Buddy to Nick. We're like, well, we screwed that up. And so we laughed it off. He ended up going to Australia and had a career there. And then I was showing a Grand at the time. And so I was like, okay, let me finish the year with the Grand. And then we couldn't get him out of Australia because of 2020, everything was backed up. So then we're like, okay, let them finish the year. And I think that was 2021, or was it 22? It might've been 22. So, everything just got pushed for all the right reasons. Like everything just worked the way it was. I was supposed to finish him. I got him in November of 2022.
This is Buddy Holly, correct?
Yes, Buddy Holly. Everywhere else in the world grooms the breed much tighter than we do here. And there's reasons for that. And that's a whole judge's education situation that I'm tackling now. But the breed is supposed to have such a harsh coat, and it's conditioned that way, and it's very important to the function of the breed. And so Buddy was in Australia, and he starts, we get him over finally in November of 2022, and he's pulled so tight I can't show him. I was going to take him to Florida and just finish him that week in Florida. I couldn't walk in the ring with him that tight. I knew I would get hammered and get him beat, and I just couldn't do it. And so I brushed that dog 3 times a day from November until January when I could show him in Palm Springs, because at that point, the judging panel came out for the Garden. And I know everyone says they have that moment of like, I can go best in show at Westminster. And I lost my mind in the kitchen by myself. And I was like, I can go best in show at Westminster. And nobody knows it. And I didn't tell a soul. At the time, Gare Flick Patterson was supposed to be doing best in show. And we just had years of conversation about the breed. Eddie Zook, I knew he was going to love this dog before he ever saw him, because we had years of showing to him and him be like, I like this dog, but I think I would fix this. And he was always open to conversations. And questions, but double checking that his eye was correct. And it always meant so much to me that he valued my opinion, because he knew Gavin, and Will Alexander had shown a few of Gavin's dogs too in Wendy's. And, Eddie was always like, am I on track here? And I was like, spot on. Every time I'd have a different dog, he loved Annie Mac. He just loved her, all her features. And I was like, yes, like you get it. And so, he hadn't seen him. And then I had to show to him in Portland, and he didn't have all the coat in yet. But he said, I can't wait to see this dog when you get him in your condition. And it was just like, I don't even know that he was paying attention as much because, coat here. And then, Mark Kokoza was doing the breed that year, and he's seen the best of the breed. So for me, that was the most nerve-wracking part, was the breed, because he knew the breed so well. And so for me, that to this day was the most nervous I've ever been, is walking into that breed ring at 8 a.m. to show to Mark, because it was just, he knows the breed, and I wanted him to like him so much. I knew he had seen him when he was a young dog, but at this point, Buddy was 6. So it was just like, what's he going to think of him now? And, am I going to have his coat where he wants it? And like, am I going to present him right? Because he's seen all these great dogs from the past. And I was just like, oh God, I just want him to like it. And I just remember when he gave me the breed and we're getting the photo, I'm like, do I need to fix anything? And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, is there anything I need to fix? Like, I need you to tell me if I need to fix anything. He's like, he looks amazing. Leave him alone. And I was like, that's all I needed. Like, everything after that was just going to be, just perfect. So for me, Buddy was just that dog that, in winning that Best in Show and winning all that, the biggest disservice was that I only got to show him for 4 months. So, it was just, I wanted more people to feel that dog. I mean, I was just getting his coat where it needed to be. I was just getting his conditioning. Like, when he first came, he wanted to throw his head back and just run as fast as he could. And I was like, I just need to get his head out and just get him really driving and reaching. And just, it was such a process that I was just getting him. And, he just run 4 Best in Shows leading up to Westminster. So I was like, oh, we're just getting on a roll. And so it was just one of those, I'm like, the biggest disservice to our breed is that he got to show for 4 months. He ended in a great bang, but, it was just, I wish more dog people could have like really put their hands on him to understand how good he was.
Have you been able to incorporate him into your breeding program?
Yes. So I had bought a daughter of his from Gavin before Buddy ever came over.
Okay.
Like, he put a photo on Facebook and I was like, I want that. And he's like, are you sure? Her front's not great coming at you. I was like, I don't care. I've got good fronts. I want that bitch. And so she just she looks so much like Buddy now. It's crazy. But in the time, she just had little ears, little tail, compact, just like bone, but just compact.
Okay.
So I had bought her to breed to some of mine. So we did some clever breedings with her, and I've got some really nice stuff from her. But between her and my other lines, they almost still a little too close.
Okay.
So I did breed him to Brittany. We have a really pretty little bitch out of her. She's just turned 2. But the thing with Buddy is he is an outcross.
Okay.
So I want to take my really line bred bitches to him, which for me, he's not as big of an outcross because he goes back to John and Soul Trader. So for me, I know which dogs I can take him to. It's going to be another generation where it's really a great breeding with him. So I have him saved up. But I did 2 breedings with him while he was here and got some really pretty bitches that, nobody gets to see them until they're mature. Like, I have patience. So it's one of those timing is everything kind of thing. So, it's still a little early for them to be making their way out. But, we've got one that did some winning in Mexico and, they're around, but I still sit on a few of them because I like my timing. My timing works for me. So, they're all about 2 now. So we'll start breeding them the next way. But I feel like a lot of people want to breed to the main dog, but you also have to know their pedigree.
Absolutely.
And so for me, I know Buddy goes back to French lines. When you go back to French lines, you go back to Grands. So you have to keep that in mind. So that's where you start getting the longer tails, longer ears, bigger size. So we have 2 inches to work with in our breed. So we have to really nail down proportions. And so, I need little typey bitches to take to him because I know what might come through. And then I have to be really critical of what comes through because you don't want to double down on those features. So you got to they were once in the same litter, the Grands and PBs. So now they're separate breeds, but those features will still pop through. So it's things like that you got to watch. So I'm always, when people want to breed to him, I'm like, do you know what's behind him? Like, you need to be smart about this. So if your bitch is a total outcross, I did talk one person out of it because their bitch was a total outcross. And I was like, he's a total outcross. Like, he ties back into my stuff because it's there. But even for me, there's a specific type I want to take to him. And I'll get some fantastic stuff out of him. But I know it's going to be another generation or 2 that goes back to him.
Janice, how much does pedigree factor into your breeding decisions?
Pedigrees are big for me, but not for the fact of, it's more because of the dogs I've put my hands on. So it's more shapes, sizes, movement. I've seen them with my own eyes. So I know where I'm with. For me, it's balance.
Okay.
I'll take a lower and longer bitch for a more, the proportions to come back. Because there's plenty of dogs with the leg. We don't have as many bitches with leg. But when you start getting bitches with legs and you start breeding to dogs with leg, you're going to get a lot of leg. So a lot of my brood bitches, I'll finish them, usually with some good wins. But then you're not going to see them in the ring because that's not the proportions I want out there.
Right.
I want the correct proportions out there, but I won't throw them out because I know I also need a little lower stationed bitch when I have dogs with leg. So for me, it's a mix. It's the dog themselves in the pedigrees that I know the shapes they were. So for me, it's a lot of shapes. Lower and longer, shorter backed up on leg. Lower and longer, shorter back up and leg. And I just keep doing that over and over. That's what has worked for me.
It truly is a work of art.
Yes, it is. It's an artistic way, but I think I've just got a little edge on the fact that because of Gavin and my memory of the dogs back there, and then Sarah on this shoulder being like, don't make excuses for that. I mean, it truly, she's so valuable in that of making that, if you start making excuses, that's where you let your type slip away. And I don't want my type to, I know everybody, this is where I think my breeding is a little different, is I started with the best dogs I could ever have dreamed up. I feel a huge sense of responsibility to not lose that quality. So, I get emails all the time. I want a special. I want something to special here. I want something to special, I want a male that can win some groups. Well, so do I. But you have to prove to me that you can be patient and know they're going to be ugly and know that you're not going to show them. You might show them a little puppies here or there. I don't want to see them until they're 4, 5, and 6 in the show ring because it's a disservice to the dog. So to me, it's just a really hard breed that people don't understand how you have to be patient with them. You can't just, there's some lines mature faster. I'll give you that. But if they're a lower station dog and they're mature at 2, by the time they're 4, they're overdone. And I want my dogs to live until 14, 15, and 16 in a healthy, athletic build. They are robust and compact, but they're athletic. And if you get too overdone at 2, they just get heavy and dumpy, and it just seems like they just get overdone and they don't keep that athletic build. And that, the bitch that won at the world show, I think she just turned 4, and she just, she's fantastic. She's a beautiful bitch. But she has patience. She popped her out as a puppy here, popped her out there, finished her in the States, and then put her away.
How many dogs are you typically working with in your breeding program?
I have a rule that Eric didn't believe Eric is my husband, who is absolutely the biggest supporter of my breeding program. Could never have had a breeding program without him. I'm a handler. I'm gone weekends. I do take time off, but it's my job. And so I say I'm not a dog collector. I think it's a disservice to the dogs.
Absolutely.
So, when I first met him and some of the show dogs that he got attached to, I was like, if they don't get along in the pack, I want my pack to go out together. Like, no arguments, everybody goes. They're a pack breed. They need that pack. They need to be able to, you guys sort it out for yourselves. If something doesn't work, if you get 2 bitches that hate each other, they will hate each other forever. Maggie May and Texas were primetime examples. So when Maggie was done showing and I was done breeding with her, I let her go to a pet home and she lived to 14. I think she left when she was 6. She lived to 14. Most spoiled life. They now have a grandson. Fantastic owners. But Eric was really it was hard for him to understand how I could let them go older. And I'm like, it's just, not all of them leave. Like Calamity is never going anywhere. She's my pet, things like that. But I think you need a village around you as far as owners, but you also need a supportive partner. And I told him if they can't win a national or a best in show or can't produce one of those, they're not sticking around. And he was like, okay. And we've stuck with that. It is, to me, the national is the highest honor. The one with Buddy will never, that was a 9-year-old's dream come true. And under the people we won under, Mark, Eddie, Beth, Swiger, I still to this day, I hate showing dogs to her. I can't make eye contact. I watched her my whole childhood. To win under those people was just, they were all breeders. They all understood, I always say, our great judges have had great dogs and they understand the amount of work it takes to get to a great dog and can appreciate the great dogs. When you get judges that have never taken a dog to that level or bred a dog of that quality, you don't fully understand what it takes to get them to that high of quality. And it's to win under people that really truly grasp that quality and just, just appreciated him so much was huge. So to me, I don't want to let my quality go in my breeding program. Like I always want them to be at that high of a standard.
Janice, I'd like to get some insight into your mental picture and your selection process. If you would, describe for our audience what a stellar PBGV looks like.
So robust and compact is in our breed standard. So they are not slight of bone. They are a solid dog. I always say with both Buddy and my dog now, Hemi, I call them like a little brick house. They're just solid, but they have to chase rabbits through rough terrain, like rough, like their coats need to be harsh that when they're running, they don't get tangled up. It pulls right out and they are gone because they're chasing rabbits. We all know how fast rabbits are. So fully understanding how fast they have to be explains how athletic they need to be. So when I say they need to be muscled, I mean, we address second thigh in our standard. Like it's not just the thigh muscle, it's that second thigh. They have to switch direction in seconds. So they're such athletes. And to me, you're going to find a dog in harsh condition, like just hard. I mean, a little brick house. They can be 13 to 15 inches. So that is not, I mean, they can be too small and they can be too big. And that is a tight 2 inches. So, I'm never going to show one over or under. Would I breed to something over or under? Yeah, I would, but I'm never going to show one myself. But, it's just a stellar PB is just going to have good coat, great balance, like nothing exaggerated. Yes, you want good fronts, but they're not a keel. You want a prominent post sternum, not a Basset Hound's front. Like it does not need to be so abnormal that, it's a balance. You want a prominent post sternum. You want good leg under them. Over half their height comes from their elbow to the ground. If you really break that down, that is not a dog that is Basset proportions. Yep. You want leg under them because they have to switch directions. They can't do that if they're dragging the ground because they have no legs. Like their height has to be more than half their height from their elbow to the ground. So I think really measuring that is what I've really been a big stickler on. So those ideal proportions and balance, and then shorter ears, shorter tail, just a little package. And it's just a petite package as always, but it's robust. Like there's just no slight to them. They're not fine boned. They're not soft coated. Like you just want that balance, overall balance of, level top lines, easy.
What breed traits do you find are the hardest to achieve?
Tails.
Tails.
For our breed in this country, it is so funny. Every other country, I look at their dogs and they have these, our tails should come to their hock. For some reason, for me, that's been my biggest challenge, and tails are important because, that's how you see them running through the field and stuff too. But it's a feature that when the tails get too long, you start getting grand because the long ears, long tail, long body, that's grandish. So you want the petite features. So you want the ears just coming to the nose, just to the nose, not wrapping their nose. That's grands. So you want the tails coming to the hock, not down to the ground. But it's funny because you just find the tails always seem to be the hardest part for this country to get. So I've made improvements. I still would like to get a little smaller, but we're making the progress. We're making progress. But that's one of the things I really struggle. I don't know why, but it's just other countries do it just fine. But for us, it just seems to be a struggle here.
So with the legacy of great dogs that you have been privileged to know, incorporate into your breeding program, and now the legacy of dogs you've created yourself, where are you looking to take your breeding program from here?
To stay consistent, honestly, for me, I just want the quality to be maintained. I don't think the breed needs big improvements. I think we've done that over the last few years. And for my breeding program, it is to maintain the quality I've been honored to carry. I feel a huge responsibility. Donna's still involved, but obviously not like they were. So I feel like I carry her lines. I carry Gavin's and Sarah's, and I feel a huge responsibility to maintain the quality they've given me, because you can't start a breeding program with not good dogs and expect great things.
Here at the Better Breeder Institute, we offer a full suite of digital resources and services developed to educate, support, and promote purebred conservation dog breeders. From free online tools like the Better Breeder Directory and Stud Dog Register, to our growing curriculum of courses, including Website Academy and Business Basics. We offer professional digital services, including email marketing and website design on our world-class Ultimate Breeder platform. Plus, we offer the Better Breeder Certification Program to distinguish purebred conservation breeders who breed to the standard and produce healthy, beautiful, and predictable puppies. We certify breeders who raise the bar with their ethics and breeding practices. At the Better Breeder Institute, we have the missing link to transform your purebred breeding program and achieve your highest goals. Learn more at betterbreeder.org. Janice, earlier you mentioned the importance of that relationship between the handler and the breeder. We have had several master breeders on this show whose careers in dogs really started as professional handlers. What do you think it is about handling that can prepare a person for great success as a breeder?
Our job as handlers is evaluating dogs for the breeders and for just evaluating dogs, period. So I think what's good about it is we get to experience a lot of different dogs. And we take them on to see how can we present them as far as their virtues. So yes, we see the faults, but we see a more creative way of how do we highlight their virtues and hide their faults. But knowing that every dog has a fault is where you start. I think a big issue today is that a lot of people don't look at their dogs with a critical eye first. My breeding program, I hate my dogs pretty much until they're 4. Like, I'll be taking one to the national and I'm like, I don't want to show this. Like, this looks I remember Brittany, the year she finished at the national, she went winner's bitch both days. And I was just like, she is not ready for this. And then I get her in the ring. I'm like, dang, she looks good. It's just, but, I'm seeing her next to her mother and her brother. And, you're just so critical on them. And, I've had such good dogs, and that growth period they go through, you have to be so critical of them. But as handlers, we do that all the time. And I think it's such a valuable relationship because, I've helped people with their breeding programs with Goldens, Cavaliers. I get to see the dogs in person. So like when we're traveling across, oh my God, I saw this dog and I think you should really look into it. I don't deep dive into the health testing. That's your job. My breed doesn't require any health testing. I think maybe the open angle glaucoma is the only test our club requires. I do hips, elbows, patellas, their eyes. Like for me to know, I want to know that I'm staying on track. So it's for my sake of, when Buddy came to this country, he was already 5.5. I held my breath doing his hips and elbows, and patellas, because I'm going to use them in my breeding program. I know other people have bred to them and they're fine with it. And I know they're a smaller breed. And if they're dysplastic, it's not that big of a deal. But it is, because one dysplastic dog goes to another dysplastic. And at some point, it becomes a bigger problem. So, for handlers to be able to look at dogs, evaluate what you see in person can help other breeders. So my golden people, this picture looks great. Well, so many are Photoshopped now. You'll see that photo and you're like, wow, that is amazing. And you see them in person and it is not the same dog. So, I can say I've seen them in person. I'd give them a touch more leg, or, I'd shorten them up a little bit, but you have a really short back. You could, it could work. Look at their brothers and sisters and all that stuff. But we're constantly seeing dogs that they might not see all the time. And we're constantly evaluating them and helping them. I have a golden client that I've worked with for 10 years. She's brought dogs down to me and I've said, not this one, not this one, not this one. So, it takes time, but now she's got consistently good dogs and I've really helped her go a long way with them. And we have a great working relationship. And I think handlers need to really support breeders a lot more. Yes, the people with the one dogs are important, but I also think our breeders are where we need to focus on, is helping them more.
It's a neat perspective. So often on the show, we're talking to breeders, you're a breeder, but then with that also being your profession, being able to see the interplay between those two, what really needs to be a very symbiotic relationship.
I think I understand the owner-handler thought process. And I do understand it and I don't. And I'm going to be the unpopular opinion here. But I think it encourages people to show the same dog for entirely too many years. I have a big thing on finishing my dogs on top. The only conversation I ever had to hint to the fact that I might go Best in Show at Westminster was 10 minutes before I walked in Best in Show. I looked at Gavin and I said, if we win this, he's done. I just need you to agree that that we're on the same page with this. And he's like, you're not going to win this. Do you think you're going to win this? I said, well, I'm not walking in to lose. But I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page before, if I won, I would never want to show him again because I just feel like you open up yourself to so much. And for me, I want people to remember my dogs at the top of their careers. I love veterans classes. I see, I won't say I'll never show a veteran because I've shown my dogs as veterans, but I want my next generations to be better. So I want to carry on that. And so, I like the owner handler. I like the thought behind it, but it's not encouraging people to get new dogs. And that's what keeps breeders going is your dog gets to 5 and 6 and my breed is just getting started at 4, 5, and 6. So, but when you have people showing their dogs from the time they're 12 months to the time they're 6, 7, 8, that's why our breeders are struggling. People aren't coming back for new dogs in the ring. And I think that's what we have to encourage is finish your dog up at the top of their conditioning and start a new project. And then you're not having the biggest heartbreak is when we lose our dogs. It is, I swear to God, it gets harder as you get older. You understand how much you love them and have raised them. But the best part we can do is to have dogs behind that dog and that carry on their legacy. And for me, I stagger my old dogs so that, I don't have a bunch that are the same age. I want to stagger them. So when we lose one, our hearts are still invested in another. But when you get people with one dog, it's whole life, and you're not encouraging them to get another one, that heartbreak is even harder to get over. Like it's your whole world is shattered. And it's like, we lost our boxer. It's how Eric and I met. He was 13 and a half. And I'm telling you, I will never forget the kindness of the dog show world. I left the dog show early to go be with him. I came back the next day. I looked like I had been hit by a bus, and everyone just got it. They just understood, like that was our kid, and it wrecks us to this day to talk about him. Luckily, we have the other ones to sit there with us while we're crying. And I feel like we're getting too many people with single dog homes. And we need to encourage the multiple dog homes again and encourage our people to not show them their whole life. I understand, do other sports, other events, but to keep showing the same dog for so many years, I think is what is happening to our sport and why our numbers are dropping. Because we can do grand champion points forever. We can do we're not encouraging them to start another one and bring them up. And that's how we encourage people. That's when people start getting involved in breeding, is like, oh, I can keep this line going, or I can help another breeder and get a younger dog, show them, and then if they want to breed to them, they can. I think that's what we have to do. So, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I think we need to encourage that.
It's such an interesting perspective, though. I actually have thoughts on a couple of different facets of that. There is no doubt that the dog show world today, I'm a breeder, owner, handler, always have been, have never once checked the box to go play in the owner handler series. As a breeder, you're so focused on creating that next great one. All you want to do is go win that national. All you want to do, if you're in the all breed world, that next best in show. And those are fun and that's great. We're going home thinking about where we're breeding that dog. And, there is just such a large, and these events are great. And if that is truly your passion to have that one dog, great. But there is a higher calling. And that higher calling is that chase for perfection that we will never fully achieve. But that is what the great breeders, that is their path. And it's because of that path that everybody else has this incredible sport and has these incredible dogs, because of that continual quest for, whether you call it advancement, improvement, reaching for the standard that only comes with that next generation.
And that's how we keep people involved. And your best owner handler clients, or people that get your breeds, you encourage them to get another one and start with another one. Like I tell people, mine's a pack breed, so they're not the single family dog. You don't want them by themselves, or you are going to have to entertain them 24/7. And they will. I tell everyone between the age of 1 and 2, you're going to regret ever getting one. They're perfect puppies. We set them up for, they're going to be great puppies. You're going to be awesome. You're going to think they're trained. And then they hit 1-year-old and they are like, what happened? And I warn everyone, I'm like, it's going to happen to you. You think you have the perfect one, think your puppy's going to be awesome. And then they hit teenage age and you're like, what have I done? So I think, and then always encouraging, you need a buddy for them. And that time, that's when you let them outside to go play, and you just get them out. Just get them outside. You just need to get them away from you and let them go be dogs. So I think it's push-pull. I can see both sides of the conversation, but as a breeder, I'm always encouraging at least 2, even if it's not another PB, another dog with them, so that you're not the sole entertainment, because dogs are animals. If you're the sole entertainment for them, it's such a disservice to them, because you set them up to fail.
Sure.
Like going to the vet and being the only dog, and you're suddenly not there with them. They need to be okay on their own. And when they're the only dog and you're home all day, I hate when I get people that are saying, I'm retired, so I'll be with them all day. And I'm like, that's the worst thing for this breed. They will attach to you like you are their pack member. And the second you separate yourself, they're going to lose their mind and you're going to regret it. And so, I've got some young couples right now that are getting their second one now. And they're like, this puppy is so much easier than the other one. I said, yeah, because you started with one. I said, now this puppy's going to learn from that one. And now this is going to be forever. You're just going to stagger having the next one and having the next one, and always having a buddy for that one, because it's just, that's what animals do. They entertain themselves instead of you just being the sole provider of entertainment.
Janice, how has your vision or goals for your breeding program changed or evolved over the years?
I just really want people to love my breed and understand that this breed is not for everyone. So we love our breed for reasons, and educating people on that reason has been a huge focus for me. So really using social media to get out how I raise my puppies, because I think it's a great way for people to understand how much love we put into them.
They're great videos, by the way.
So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a great way to educate people about the breed, but also telling them why they aren't for everyone.
What does success in your breeding program mean to you today compared to when you began?
I think the success means that I'm on the right track. I don't take it as a guide on what I'm doing next. I have a plan. I have 6-month-old puppies, and I know their next 3 breedings. I know the direction I'm going with each of those breedings and what I want from those breedings. And then I also know what those puppies are going to be bred to the next time. So I think for me, it's just a lot of planning and getting your thoughts out on what direction you're going with each breeding and sticking to it.
What ideas do you have for how breeders can do a better job of marketing themselves to pet puppy shoppers and the general public?
I think we have to utilize social media. I think it's a way to reach people that you don't know. I have a side business of my nail game thing. And what I say is like the night of Westminster, I went in a chat and said, guys, this is the biggest night of my life. Can you just be on there to cheer me on? And the love I got back was amazing. And now those people have followed me and my dog shows when they had never heard of it before. They watch it every year. They love my puppies. They ask me all the questions about why do I do this? Because I do, videos of them. I do, puppy photos each day and like why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think it's a huge way to educate people on why our dogs are so important to us and really learning the different breeds and what might be the right fit for that person.
Elevate your breeding program with Easy Whelp Solutions. Easy Whelp's innovative modular whelping boxes set a new standard for premium design and performance. Their washable, eco-friendly pads are more absorbent than the competition, keeping your whelping area clean and hygienic. And Easy Whelp Heat Combo ensures your puppies stay warm and healthy. Easy Whelp also carries a full line of whelping products, including box liners, feeding stations, whelping bundles, and video monitoring systems. Raise the bar in your breeding program. Visit easywhelp.com today. At this point in your breeding career, what do you view as the most significant challenge in your breed?
I think having people understand they're not just cute. There's a lot to it. Like I have a cute breed. I'm not going to be lying. They're cute, but it takes a lot of work to get them there. Their coats are not easy. It takes time. It takes effort. The people that think it's easier or think they're a natural breed, they're going to be a bad wake-up call. They are not a natural breed. Their coat does take work. And so being very upfront with that, it's just, they have coat changes. They go through all the things that people don't expect as much. So I think really educating people on the breed is a huge aspect, in the good and the bad.
On the flip side, what has you optimistic about the future of the PBGV?
I think we're getting new people in our breed, which is fun because they're really smart and they can do all kinds of events. I mean, obedience is one of my favorite things to watch at the National because they'll be perfectly trained at every other dog show and do obedience. And then they come to the National and they look around and they're like, it's PBGV people. And they go zoomy and then sit back and they make you laugh no matter what. So I find people getting into agility with them, rally, doing all kinds of the what's the fast cat one? Oh, they're so fast, and watching them do that is fantastic. So I love getting new people in that are discovering that and really having fun with their dogs.
What do you believe our fellow breeders should be most focused on today?
I think we need to do better educating about why purebred dogs are important. You know what you're getting, and we have to educate. I would love for AKC to do more of it for us, but we have to do it. You have to be on social media. You have to, let people see your breed in everyday life, not just dog shows. They are pets. I'm looking at my dog right now, sleeping on the floor. There are pets. He eats eggs every morning I'm at home. People know he loves eggs just from watching my stories. The dog gets up when he hears an egg crack. It's just what he does. It has humanized our show dogs so much. And I think that's a huge responsibility we have to share, that it's not just the ring, that it's our everyday life with our dogs, that, the show is 2 minutes of our life. It's the rest of the week that really makes up their, performance.
Bill Sheldon had a post on Facebook, I believe, this morning that literally got to that exact point about how small the show life is in the life of a show dog. The rest of their life, they're a pet.
But people don't realize that. And I think that's what we have to educate on, is that they are just our dogs, and we raise them with the love of every person that rescues a dog. And there's a difference between, even in Palm Springs, it is such a dog friendly. Buddy Holly was the mayor of Palm Springs, like the canine mayor. They were so welcoming to him. And let me tell you, we doubled down on that. We talk to the vet. We make sure the vets understand why breeders are valuable. We make sure that the shelters know. When we got too much dog food because Buddy wanted all this dog food, we sent it to the shelters. Those dogs need help too, but we need to educate people where those dogs are coming from. They are not from us. And it's a business. And understanding that there are positive ways to go about rescuing dogs that aren't necessarily, the puppy mills that are, feeding the shelters. So it's got to be some education, but you've got to be willing to do it, even when you might sound crazy or you might sound like you are just speaking to the wall. But I think once people know you and understand, like Buddy was just such a huge asset for us in this town because, they did so many things with him. And so many people were like, oh, we saw him on Westminster, but they were like, oh, he's so beautiful. But they think, oh, our dog could never do that. And it's not about the dog shows. That's how people learn about breeds. That's where education comes in. I remember in my schools, we had posters of every dog breed. Every vet clinic had posters of every dog breed. There's a reason shelters say everything is part dog breed. We need to understand that, there's a reason they do that, is to put them in a box because they want that temperament. But you're not getting that temperament because you don't even know if it's that breed. And that's where, if you want that breed, go to their rescue. Go to PBGV rescue. They're not going to have a lot available for you, but you can get on a list. And you just help people, like, oh, I had a golden back in 1975. Well, go get another golden, like a real golden. And I just think we just have to keep doing it because it used to be so normal. You go to Europe, you see dogs everywhere that are purebred. And they have animal rights that are just fighting them every step. But the dogs are still purebred. They let them win on some things, but they're not winning on everything. So it's a battle we have to take on one person at a time. And it's our responsibility to do it. As much as I say my breed is not for you, I've told so many people, they see how cute they are and they see them at 5 and 6. You don't know the 4 years before that. They're hard-headed, and they're stubborn on another level. But if that's not the breed for you, I'm going to help you find a breed that I think fits your lifestyle. And I'm going to connect you with someone that I trust within that breed to take care of you. And that to me is our biggest way to get out why purebred dogs, because we have the connections. I had a person with 2 of my dogs pass away very suddenly, and they were 6 and 8. And within a day, I had someone getting them out, getting them from the person that was taking care of them. Luckily, they knew to call me. She had it all written out, got them, kept them for 2.5 months to make sure they were okay, and then make sure I could get a home that they could stay together. That's what you get that you don't get at the shelter. And that's what we have to keep telling people. This, you are stuck with me for life. Every person that gets my dog, I don't have a complicated contract. I think they discourage people from signing. I think it discourages people from doing anything. My contract is simple. You have to provide vet care for the dog and your area. So I'm a minimal vaccinator. I go with our vet's recommendations that our vet knows my life. It's not a VCA vet. And I say, in your area, what do you need? I don't need flea and tick treatment in the desert. Don't need it. But when your dogs go where they go, I said, but after that, you have a question, you call us, you let me know. I am your go-between because we've heard it or seen it or done it all. So you're stuck with me for the rest of your life. So my contract is vet care. And if ever it's not the right fit now or in 10 years, they come back to me. I know what's going to be best for them. I know. And I've had situations where, a dog's 12 and they're living with their daughter and they pass away, and the daughter, of course, can keep them, but they know to contact me. That's my only request in my contracts. Everything else is never going to hold up. It's possession is the law. I'm already vetting people and I'm trusting them with our kids. And if we've gotten to that point, I've had show homes that don't work out. I don't care. As long as the dog is happy and you love them, that's all I care about. And so I think we've really got to encourage people to, the contracts I've seen with people, it's not encouraging people to ever come back to you. If you have to sign a contract for every litter that's ever come out of a dog, I don't know how you go on from that. It's such discouraging people from ever doing anything on their own, and I don't sell a lot of show dogs because I have such a quality that I want to keep out there. And I have such a high demand of pets because we've lost a lot of our breeders. They were just older or unexpected things. And I have a huge responsibility to make sure PBGV lovers that have had them in the past can still get them. And I can't, I'm not going to say I can't breed enough, but we work together. If we have people that have had the breed before, we all work together to see who's got something that can get a previous PBGV owner a dog, because it's a hard breed and there's not a lot of breeders to get, a dog from. So I think just making sure we're accessible when people want to talk and they have a problem, we are always their go-to. That's what they don't get from others, from the shelters. They just don't get that insurance of having somebody to have their back.
Janice, if there was one current day master breeder that you'd like to see featured on this show, who would it be and why?
Just one. That's really hard. I'll say Jim Moses and Sherry Moses, both of them, I can look in the shepherd ring to this day and know what dogs go back to theirs. And it's the one breed I'm retired from. I tell people I'm retired from shepherd handling. When I worked for Clint, we had Caleb's Genuine Risk, and she was the coolest dog on the planet. I loved her. To this day, she makes me smile. And to have that responsibility of one of their dogs in our care was a huge thing. And I was her person. It was a huge honor. But I was like, the day she left, I was like, I'm retired from shepherd handling. No more. I was just like, that's just a level of, but to be able to look at a breed and say that definitely goes back to them. That's what I want in my breed. I want someone to be able to look in the breed and just be like, oh, that's got to be one of hers. I just want that quality of, it's hard. It's really hard because you're going to have different types. But even then, to know, you just know that shepherd goes back to their breedings. And it's just, I think that's something the breeders really to see a line, like Tanya Struvel's Goldens. You know they're hers. You just know it. And so things like that, just clever breeders can always put their stamp on the breed for the better. It's a huge honor to be able to see dogs and know what breed or what breeder they came from.
Is there a breeder you'd like to see featured on the Better Breeder Chronicles? Then go to betterbreeder.org/nominate to let us know. We are looking for master breeders, whether they are highly acclaimed or they work quietly in anonymity to move their breed forward. Better Breeder Chronicles puts those individuals on their rightful pedestal and shares their story with the purebred dog world. Nominate your most respected breeder today. Go to betterbreeder.org/nominate. Thinking back over your journey in PBGVs, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm proud of the relationships I've built and maintained. I think our reputation is, for me, it's everything. And if I say I'm going to do something, I am not going to go back on my word. And so when these people have trusted me with their breeding programs, the last thing I want to do is upset them or not follow through with plans we've had or something like that. So being able to maintain relationships, I mean, Gavin and Sarah, I think it's been over 20 years, Donna, over 20 years. Like, it's crazy to think of that now, but it means so much that they trusted me so much with their dogs, and we still have a relationship to this day. I mean, Donna hasn't been to a show in probably 3 years, but she still knows which dogs are which. She still, I still am like, we're going to do this or we're going to do this. And she's like, all right, all right. And it just means a lot that, they trust you with their dogs, which is their legacy. And I hope people understand that that's how I want. And my reputation is my word. And I just don't want people to ever feel like I've used them in any way. So, I have that unpopular opinion as well as, people say you have to work with people you may not like when it comes to breeding dogs. I don't abide by that. I think I want the level of people I work with to be people I respect. I respect them in their ring. I respect them in their life. And I don't want to work with people that if my gut says no, I trust my gut. There was a time in my life I didn't trust my gut, and it bit me in ways you can't imagine. And to this day, if I get a vibe I don't like about something, I'm going to stick with my gut. And if that means they have the best dog, I'll have to miss out on that dog. I know that's not the only dog in a breed that I have to have. I know I can deconstruct a pedigree and know where I can get the same kind of look. And I don't abide by the fact that if you don't like someone that you should still breed to their dogs, and the fact that there's so many dogs out there and your line may not mesh with that dog. I've had breedings not work with, every time I try to outcross to a breeder, I really like their dog's types, I get a mess. I just get a mess. So I go back to my 2 lines that I've worked with Gavin and Donna, and it works every time. And it's like, it's so frustrating because I'm like, I really like their dogs. And then I get bad bites or, some random, like they mature so fast that they get overdone or too big, all the things. So I'm like, you know what? If you're comfortable in your lane, stay in your lane. If it's working for you, you don't have to go work with someone you don't like. You don't have to go if they have a good dog, great. But is it their only good dog? Does that mean the whole family behind it isn't? Like, I don't abide by that. Yeah, it depends on the reasoning. I mean, if it's just because they beat you, then no, that's not a good enough reason. But if it's just, you fundamentally don't, like the way their breeding practices are, or you see who they sell puppies to, I'm not going to get into business with them, because when I breed to somebody, I want a relationship. I want to know how those puppies grow up. I have Himmy, who I sent to England. He's my first bred by dog that I sent over and got an English champion on. That's all great. He got 10 cc's. He was #1 hound. in Ireland, like huge wins. What I feel the most proud of is that the old time breeders bred to that dog and they love their puppies and their temperaments, and that he was such an asset to them. And to me, that is huge. And being able to follow along with that was more of an honor for me.
Yep.
Is that these breeders I've watched for years bred to one of the dogs I created. And to me, and each one, we were like, we have a team and we all get to decide if they breed to them or not. And if we think the bitch is right or not. I've had bitches come to me, I don't think this is the right fit for your dog. And I've had people go off the rail at me because they didn't agree with it. And then I'm like, you know what? That was my gut saying this isn't the right dog, but you're also not the right person. Because if this is how you handle it, if something goes off, it's going to be my dog's fault. It's a big responsibility when you have a stud dog, because they get blamed for everything. So, I'm just one of those people that I know it's the unpopular, do what's better for the breed. But it's also what's better for the sport is that we have good people that are willing to help each other and not, I tell people that I don't do drama. I don't do it. I've been in the drama. I've been in it. I don't want to be there again. I don't do drama. If you like my dog and I think your bitch is the right fit, let's do this. If it's not the right fit, it might not be this dog. It might be another one. But I'm going to offer you the knowledge I have of their pedigree and what I think, if they ask, what I think might be a better fit. But I think it's one of those things that you have to be comfortable with the people you're working with. And, the sport needs to be leveled up. We need to level up. That's a big part of our sport, is that too many people are going too low. And we need to level the whole sport up. We need to all speak better about each other, about our sport, about each other's dogs. Like, we all have to level up. The judges have to level up education. They need to find passion about the dogs they're judging again. When you're judging every single weekend and going through the motions, go back and read some standards. I mean, I'm doing judges education now, and it's a huge responsibility. But I've been watching what they've been learning for the last 10 years, and it's 20 years behind. Our breed has improved so much from the first time Nick told me about all the dogs they had to bring over to the country to get the numbers in, to the dogs we currently have in our country. That breed and this breed have improved so huge. And I'm watching Basset Fauves bring in good dogs right off the bat. Grons, they brought some good dogs right off the bat. That's how you kickstart a breed. Unfortunately, back when PBs came in, there just wasn't the access there is now. Now we have access to, worldwide dogs much easier. So I think we all have to level up our sport if we don't want it to die. And that means how we speak to people, how we conduct ourselves in the ring, how our judges are conducting themselves in the ring. Those are long days. I get it. If you're tired, take some time off and just go read some standards. Go back to the beginning. How many of us read standards as kids, as pastime? It's these things called books, and we would open the standards and read them. And that was my pastime. So, there's so many things I could go on for a year, but I think we just need to level the sport up. And that's why I love this podcast that you're doing, because I feel like it's leveling people up to have conversations that might be hard.
Yeah, it's conversations. It's honest perspective. Honestly, it's taking great breeders like yourself and letting everybody else see these are good people. These are honest people. These are ethical people. These are people who are dedicating their lives and sacrificing for the betterment of their own breeds. They are not selfish people. They are people who have learned that the greatest thing they can do for their breed is collaborate with their partner breeders. And they are not breeders that breed themselves on an island. They are collaborating. They are sharing their dogs. They are importing. They are co-owning. They are leasing their bitches out. And that is the only way, especially as our numbers continue to decline. That is the only way we're going to be able to preserve these dogs, is if great breeders are working together, pulling in one direction for their breed.
I agree. And I just really think we have to all help each other. So, when you have a vet that is so fantastic, we have the best vet. Like, we are so lucky. We're a small town. We have the best vet. She gets it. We call and we have an issue. She talks us through if it's something she needs to see them or not. She knows when we call and we're like, I've never had a C-section until I had 2 litters at once. And then it's my first C-section I ever had to have. And she met us there on Friday night. And just because she knows, it was just the 4 of us, her husband and my husband and us. We got all the babies out. Everything went good. It was a learning experience for me because, I've heard of C-sections all the time. I am a huge advocate of letting bitches naturally whelp in my breed. I just think I want natural breedings first, and then I want natural whelping. It's just a huge thing, I think, mentally for them. But, things happened and there was nothing wrong with this puppy. There was nothing, but she was pushing for too long. And I'm like, I think we're going to have to get him taken out. I was like, here we go, and it was just like, all right, new experience. And, it was a learning experience. And she walked me through everything she was doing and, and how to keep infections from happening. And so I learned a ton. And I've been doing this for how long? I've been showing dogs for over 35 years. And I learned a ton that night. We never stop learning. We all talk. Like Julie Jones and Kathy Jones and Basenji's, they have been in that breed for so long. And I'm telling you, they are a phone call away. I had, a puppy that I definitely thought aspirated. And she's walking me through the things to do. And she's like, just give it small bits and just keep that one. And she was just like, it was screaming. And I'm like, what do I do? And they were just fantastic. Taffy McFadden, she's always a phone call away. Like, we have so many people we can reach out to that we support each other. And I think it's a huge asset that we have got to share, that we have all this knowledge among. And our juniors, like, I can't stress, I started as a junior, never had any intentions of being a breeder, never, like, it wasn't even a thought process. And now here I am breeding, and I enjoy my breeding more than most of the showing at this point. I just love raising puppies, and I just love, creating them and watching them thrive and be people's best friend the rest of their lives. I love it. And now we have, my junior that just happened to need a dog, fell in love with the breed, and her goal in life is to become a vet. Like, that's how we keep this going and surviving, is to have someone that is so involved in the sport that's going to take it and keep it rolling and support breeders. Our vet programs are going to need that kid. Like, she's going to be so valuable to our sport. So, like, you never know what breed's going to click with somebody. You just never know. Like, I'm sporting my whole life, and these hounds have taken over my whole life. I love them every day. Like, they just make me laugh. So I think we just have to be loud. We have to talk. I get negative comments all the time. You know what I do? Block. If I get animal rights people attacking a post, guess what? Block. You say something negative on mine, block. I don't need that negativity. I don't want it. But you know what? I reach thousands of people that have never heard of a PBGV. Think they're cute. I have met some awesome homes through social media that found me from just following things, asked all the questions, just fell in love with the breed because of videos. And that's how it is now. That's how we have to educate them.
Janice, to that aspiring breeder who's listening to the Stellar story today, If there was one thing you'd hope they take away from your story that could help them in their own journey, what would it be?
I think a lot of us will put up a wall because we've been burned. And I want to know that you mean it when you say you might want to breed the breed. If you just want the breed to have a famous dog, you're going to go nowhere. Like Anna Gracie is a great person that she probably 7 years in a row would come to my setup every time I'd go to Florida, go over the dog I had then. And she wasn't ready for her own dogs yet. She was still in school. Her mom bred Beardies, but she loved this breed. They just captured her. And every year she'd come and go over them. What do you like on this one? What would you fix on this one? And so, when she finally got into a situation where she's like, okay, I think I'm ready for a puppy, it wasn't even a question to send her a good one. Like, she just was passionate. Tanya Struble was the same way. She would come and just go over my dogs and ask questions. And I didn't have the right dog for her. So we got Fred from Gavin and Sarah for her, which worked great for me because I could breed to him. She'd have a great dog to show. And now she has one of my bitches that bred to her. And now she went winner's bitch of the national with her from Bred By. I could not have been more thrilled for someone else. So just seeing other people, like, be persistent, because if you just walk up and say you want to, I can't tell you how many messages I get. I want a bitch to breed. I want a dog to show. I want a special. So do I. And in my litters, I might get one or two that I think are the quality that I want out there. And I'm going to be picky on where they go. Like, I have a lady in Canada I just sent one to. She's a good bitch. And I could make an argument for the one I kept and the one she kept. But I chose the one I kept because I know my next 3 breedings on that bitch are going to be fantastic, because I wanted this little compact package. And that bitch was going to be the show dog. But she's also going to be her first brood bitch. And she's been talking to me for years. And I'm like, I think this is going to be your best starter one. She's a good bitch, good proportions right off the bat, needs a little better front, but this breed can fool you with an okay front. They're still going to be good. So I just think we as breeders have to be picky, because, the breed's not for everyone. But you also have to have people that are serious enough to be persistent and know that when I have the right dog and you have been persistent about it, I breed maybe twice a year. So I'm breeding for myself first, and then I'm going to be ultra critical on what I want in the ring. And it's just the reality of it. So, our small breed is going to be small. Everyone was so worried after Buddy won that our little breed was going to be so popular. And I'm like, guys, how many litters are you going to have to make this breed so popular? Like, we don't have a lot of breeders. It's not going to be like a golden retriever winning. Like, it's just not. And so, so we've done a great job of just keeping our breed small. And there's a lot to that, of having a small breed of a lot of quality. And I think that's how we keep the charm of the breed. It's what's endearing of them. People think they're adorable and they're so cute. We know how awful they can be. And that's why we love them. It takes stubborn, hard-headed people to own a PBGV, and we love the challenge. And that's not for everyone. If you want a golden, that's not what you want here.
And finally, after your breeding days are done, how do you want breed history to remember stellar PBGVs?
Just the quality. I just want quality, great temperaments, just a consistent quality of dogs. Like that would be, and people's breeding programs from all over, to be able to go back and just be like, man, we got something from that. And that to me is just I can't tell you, like, watching my, dogs' kids win in Denmark and Crufts and seeing them do well all over the world is just so mind-boggling to me, because it's just, we're in the States, and, for the most part on the West Coast, they see one. So, when I tell them he won the breed 2 years at Crufts, and they're like, oh my God, how many were there? 85. Like, and he won both of them. Like, it's just, it's huge. So, and I love when judges go over there to see them and see how many there are. and really see the quality over there. It's great. And go to our national. I encourage everyone, if you judge our breed, we're in Asheville this year, go to our national. Like, go see more than 1 or 5 or 10. Go see a lot of the breed. That's the only way to learn a breed, is to go to their national, see the dogs people are so excited to show, and then learn about them. So I think that's a great way to get people to learn the breed.
Janice, if breeders want to learn more about your dogs and your breeding program, where can they find you?
Facebook. I always have these grand ideas of doing websites, and truthfully, it's, I juggle so many things. It's just the last thing I have not done yet. So Facebook, I have lots. I have a handling website that I probably should just make an extra page for the PBs. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's just, Facebook's the best way. It just connects everybody, and you can go back years and years and years.
I mentioned it earlier about your videos. I commend you on the time investment you're putting into them. There is no more compelling type of media that exists than video. And when you are able to put that educational content into video, putting, a face with a name, with a breed, it's powerful. And great job with that. Janice, this conversation has been great. Thank you for sharing the stellar story with us today.
Thank you. This is fun.
That's it for this chapter of the Better Breeder Chronicles. We hope you found the stellar story with Janice Hayes captivating, and that it will inspire you to pursue your highest goals in your breeding program. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. At the Better Breeder Institute, we encourage all conservation dog breeders to embrace your fellow breeders as partners and collaborators rather than competitors and rivals. With the unprecedented challenges we all face today, successful breeding programs can no longer operate on an island. Our purebred dog breeder community must come together, with everyone pulling in the same direction. This is crucial if we're going to successfully preserve and advance our beloved breeds. I'm Matt Stelter, closing the book for today. Best wishes to you and your breeding program from all of us at the Better Breeder Institute. We'll see you in the next chapter. Take care.